Hey there YouTube, hello fans. This is Daniel, back again for another video. So I'm going to be doing Saturn in the sign of Scorpio, proceeding through the chart from Scorpio because of the way Saturn works. Roughly this will affect people born in the early 80s. Saturn spends roughly 2.5 to 3 years in a given sign. So I want to focus a little bit on some of the ramifications of having this placement. As you know, Saturn is the great malefic. Saturn is the planet that prompts us to test our will, test our skills, test or become authority, and rise to the challenge or feel the sting of defeat. Saturn is unforgiving. Saturn, the goat, Capricorn, all these things represent authority. They represent rigid structures within the body. I don't know if any of you are aware of medical astrology, but Saturn represents the bones. It represents the structure that holds the physical world together. The god of this world, very much in every sense, is Saturn, in terms of the stability with how things operate metaphysically in the universe. And that's something that is very deep and something that I may get into later on. But for now, I'm going to focus on Saturn in the sign of Scorpio. How does Saturn behave under the influence of scorpionic energy, and how does it move about in the natal chart as well as transit in the sign of Scorpio? Scorpio is a sign of depth. It's a sign of will. It's a sign of deep wells, insects, secrets, lies, treachery, deceit, stubbornness, the will to survive, the will to win at any cost. It's brutal to an extent. And in the planet Scorpio, in the planet Saturn, there's definitely a concurrence there. There's definitely a fusion of, you might say, evil meets bad. That's not to say that people with the placement, Scorpio and Saturn together, are evil, or are bad, or criminalistic, or do horrible things in life. But the energy itself, by itself, does compound to create something that is somewhat demonstrable. I've always been the type of astrologer that's not going to lie to people. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. One of the great tragedies of modern astrology has been this idea to make everything lighthearted and everything look good. And some things just don't look good. Some things aren't good. There is great good, as we covered before with Jupiter, but there's also great ills, great evils, darkness, and Saturn is that darkness. Saturn, not to get too off topic, but Saturn does represent two great forces in the lives of everyone. The coming of age, or the Saturn return, when all of us reach the age of in and around 30 years old. This is the great transition. This is the great test of Saturn in its return. And again, during the famed midlife crisis, when again Saturn, not coming full circle yet, but coming half circle to your natal position of Saturn, then becomes an opposition in a transitory sense to your natal Saturn, and therefore represents an obstacle, represents something that is going to be at odds with you. And so we feel this great sense of a midlife crisis, of a transition, of a need to do things to become better than we were, and to kind of sow the seeds for a harmonious older life as we continue to age. And so Saturn represents all of these things, all of these great truths. And in Scorpio, these things come in a very raw manner. Again, Scorpio with its raw, very deep well of energy forms to create a fusion where the individual is confronted with great struggles in their life. They're confronted with great decisions, do or die situations, as would befit the sign of Scorpio. And this can mean many things to many different people. It can mean things in the workplace. It can mean things in the home life. For example, if your Scorpio and Saturn is positioned in the fourth house, there's going to be a lot of issues around that fourth house, around your home, around your family. You may move, if you're a Saturn and Scorpio from the early 80s, you may have moved a lot as a child. You may still be moving. There may be a lot of upheaval. There may be a lot of things that go unsaid for many years in childhood that relate to issues with parental behavior or interactions with other youth as a child. Moving forward, if this energy is placed elsewhere, it can do much of the same thing in other houses. Saturn is one of those energies that wherever it inhabits, it creates hostility. It creates a need to step up. It creates a need to come full force with something, to confront things or be defeated by them. And Scorpio, on the one hand, allows for the individual to survive these situations. It gives them the resolve to overcome them. But at the same time, the Scorpion is not a guarantee to victory in the planet Saturn. If anything, it is a guarantee of being able to confront what ails you or again be defeated by it. But in that defeat, just like with the nature of Scorpio, you can rise from those ashes and become like the phoenix. You can rise again, stronger than before, and fight again. The energy of Saturn within the sign of Scorpio is not necessarily one of confrontation, but rather it's one of gaining power by covert means, secretly, intimately, strategizing, making sure that you're always looking out for number one at the end of the day. The ability to think several steps ahead, the ability to look at life from the perspective of who is for me, who is against me, and how can I deal with the people who are against me and reward those who are for me. In the end, Saturn in all places looks to challenge us, looks to bring out the best in us through those challenges. Within the sign of Scorpio, there is a definite desire to look forward in a very cautious and calculating way. Scorpio, and the Scorpion by nature, is determined to succeed in whatever way it can. Typically, this means in subversive ways. So again, going through the houses, and Saturn, as we move forward, gets into a very transitory kind of outlook for even people that have it in a natal sense. So what do I mean by that? So Saturn, as we move on, and especially with the trans-Saturnian planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and some of the fixed stars therein, Ophiuchus and a few other ones, there is a generational effect. And so groups of people will begin to be challenged by these things. But through the houses, we can look at a more specific, and also the aspects, a more specific understanding of what it means to you as the individual. And so when we look at Saturn as it moves within the sign of Scorpio through these various houses, we can begin to see where these challenges come up. Many people who happen to have, for example, Saturn in the sign of Scorpio while placed in the 7th house typically have issues with the law. They have issues with marriage. They have issues with partnerships. They have issues acting harmoniously with others. And this isn't because Saturn does this. This is because of the relationship that Saturn has to Scorpio while in the 7th house. And so there are many co-founding factors that develop to create that personal chart within those planets. But overall, this is an energy that allows you to feel a sense of will that others may not have. And that's the trick with Saturn, is to always use it for the positive, even though it is a great malefic. Find the positive within it and look forward to using that to make yourself better. So with Scorpio, your energy, your drive, your ability to look at things from a very survivalistic standpoint, all of that is going to make sense at different times in your life. And you can use that ability to overcome a great many things. You have to remember that Saturn rules governments, it rules corporations, it rules rigid systems of law and order and structure. And so you, with this placement, also within each house, it gets more specific, but in a general sense, with Saturn in a scorpionic nature within your natal chart, this will allow you to work within those systems. This will allow you to overcome the things that may besiege other people, the things that may cause other people to crumble and throw up the white flag. You may be steadfast, you may be stronger in the end, and more enduring as well in the end, in your given situation. These are the things that a Scorpio Saturn will allow you to succeed at. Anything within this realm. Overall, this again has been my I'll say views on the meaning behind what it means to have Saturn within the sign of Scorpio. The interpretations you'll see, as I've said earlier, you'll see are much more watered down. Modern day astrology, again, isn't designed to tell you the truth, but I'm here to tell you the truth. Insofar as I want you to have the information and use it to your benefit, both positive and negative. So again, this has been my interpretation of the placement Saturn within the sign of Scorpio. If you have any comments or questions or concerns about this placement, please leave them in the comment section below. Feel free to ask me anything that your heart desires. I love the questions, I love the comments, and I will see you all next time. Have a good day. Bye.